Hey guys, it's layout overview time. I like to do these every once in a while because we get a lot of new subscribers, so this will bring everybody up to speed about my layout here. We're gonna start out with a quick map view, and then we'll go over the details of the actual layout and all the good statistics, other questions that I always get asked during some of our videos. So hopefully once you watch this, you will know everything there is to know about my layout here. Let's jump over here and we'll take a quick view of the actual map here. So this is what I am modeling. This is Southern California. It is a UP line. I'm running it from out here in Santa Fe Springs, the Los Nitos UP yard. And I follow that line down south into Orange County. We follow it all the way over here, Buena Park, La Mirada, and Cerritos. Right here is where we get a lot of our first industries that I service on the layout. We continue down into Anaheim, go right by Disneyland right there. Take a turn, head west really quick over to Stanton, and that's where we've got our Sanford and Sun Salvage. Not sure if that's what I'm going to call it right now. I might call it something else, but that's one of the industries that we model. And then the line actually runs all the way down into Huntington Beach over here, and then ends. The last industry on the line there is that reliable wholesale lumber, and then we've got a couple other ones up and down that section right there. That's called the Stanton industrial lead because it starts out in Stanton right there. And the other portion up here is actually the Santa Ana industrial lead. It actually runs farther down over here into Orange and then down into Santa Ana. Actually ends up in Costa Mesa and then eventually connects up down by the coastline and runs down into San Diego. But that's the actual real world line that I'm modeling. It is point to point. I am using the Los Nitos yard as sort of my starting point, although I do have a staging track that kind of signifies the rest of the world right there. And yeah, let's jump over here. I'll give you a quick overview now. Sort of a grand scale overview of, let's go ahead and back up, show you the actual layout. So the layout is in my garage. I have a 3-bay garage here, or kind of maybe 2.5. And you can see I've got sort of the California garage right here. I got the little couch, threw a carpet down there. I've got my workbench, got some TV up here, running some YouTube videos, watching some videos on switching and stuff like this. This is where most of my work happens right here. And as you can tell, I do have other hobbies here. I do reload ammunition right there, so hopefully YouTube doesn't block this video because I said that. But anyway, yeah, so here's where I do all my painting and tree work. Got my airbrush right over here, and been working on this tree. I know that's a little bright right there. That tree has been sitting there for like 6 months. I got to get to it. All right. Anyway, we swing back around over here, and I'm using 1 bay of my garage right here to set up my layout. So some of the statistics on here, it is roughly about 15 to 16 feet. I think it's about 15.5 feet, something like that, from one end over to the other. And then, since I just measured it, from there all the way out to the end of the garage is exactly 10 feet. I thought it was a little bit bigger, but yeah, it's only about 10 feet right there. The bench work is just kind of hodgepodge put together. Some of the bench work on this end right here was a little bit more permanent, made out of 2x4s and plywood. The rest of the bench work is mostly like 1x4s, I believe. And I have I think it's 12-inch, maybe a little bit higher, backboard kind of section. And what I did was I made little shelf units out of the back of it. So the backboard, like over here, divides up the yard section from sort of the interior, right? So yeah, let's just follow the line here. So like we looked on the map, we've got Los Nidos Yard over here. So this is where trains start out. They get put together out of staging, which we'll look at in a second. But yeah, trains get put together over here and then dispatched. They run out of the yard heading south into our first industries. We get over our little Liftoff Bridge, because you can see that even though my line is point to point, this is basically a big loop. Just runs around in a big loop, and with a divider right over here, right? So my Liftoff Bridge is pretty straightforward. Just a piece of wood, a little bit of bracing there on the underside to make sure it doesn't warp and whatnot. Got a couple of hinges right over here, which I'm trying to camouflage with a little paint and some static grass. Go ahead and lift it up. It just lifts up. It's got a couple of screws right there. Those screws correspond with holes right down here that help align the track. All right, we'll pop this up. We'll head down into the actual layout here. Again, this is our yard lead. This is our main line. Comes around here and we enter the first set of industries on this end here, which is what I'm calling La Mirada and Cerritos here. Now again, my philosophy here is to try to be somewhat prototypical, but with space constraints and everything else, you got to be a little bit flexible and kind of fudge things here and there. So my layout is really more proto-freelance, I would say, right? It doesn't model the prototype exactly. So some industries are made up, some industries are not exactly where they are, but the focus was on actual switching and having the proper, or at least maximum amount of switching opportunities, meaning that there are plenty of little industries where there are plenty of car spots. The more car spots you have, which is places where you're going to put a car, the more operational opportunity you have here. So we head around. Let's just follow this around, and we have our first run around over here on this side here, and then we have our little wooded area. We kind of cut down to this side, which is kind of like the east side of the the layout here. Even though this little strip right over here cutting through the woods is only a foot and a half or so apart, signifies sort of a larger area, right? So that the cars actually come down here and they switch out our plywood industry over here. Shasta Beverage is another industry right there with a couple of car spots. And then if we follow this back down this way, Titan Transfer, which actually isn't on the line that I'm modeling, but I wanted to have someplace that had took tank cars, and so there is a Titan Transfer, but it's a little bit farther up towards I think like Compton, Torrance area, in the opposite direction of in the real world. But again, a little bit of fudging here just to have some more opportunities. We'll follow that all the way around, and then we kind of head into Anaheim, right? Disneyland someplace in the background over there. And again, a little bit more fudging. I wanted to have sort of just some areas that are not specific to the actual railroad, meaning there's no industry, it's just scenic area, something that the train runs through. And so I made the Anaheim Hills Saddle Club, which again is a little bit farther to the east on the Santa Ana industrial lead. And but I kind of fudged it over here, put in a a riding ring, things like that, little horses and stuff like that. I kind of niced it up over here because Anaheim and Anaheim Hills, some places are real nice right there. But it's a nice little scenic area where the train runs back behind it, and that's sort of the way it works on the prototype. The train actually runs right by the Anaheim, or I don't even think it's called Anaheim Hills, I'm not sure, but it's like the Anaheim Saddle Club or something like that. And then we kind of hit our next industry here, which I'm I did this to sort of contrast the two different things here. This is our Sanford and Sun Salvage. And then we just had it as a team track at one point, and then I changed it back to Sanford and Sun Salvage because I just love the way a salvage yard looks on, with all the crap in it and everything. So this is still in flux here. Nothing's ever finished, right? Got some junk piles here that need to be painted and everything like that. And then we're using this one track here for loading and offloading for that industry. But yeah, I wanted to kind of contrast the junkyard with the saddle club. So something really nice and fancy looking. And then this is really grimy right across the street, which is kind of the way Southern California is, right? So if we follow the main line, it cuts off here. Here's that Stanton area in Anaheim, where we start heading down to Huntington Beach. And again, this is the location where in the real world there would be the Anaheim West UP yard. Small little yard with like a Y, and they stage a few of the locomotives in that section, but I really didn't have the room to do it properly, so we're just kind of fudging it here and putting a little freeway on-ramp overpass or something like that right here. And then we head down into Huntington Beach. So this line runs all the way to the dead end right there at, what is it, Reliable Lumber, the very last industry on that line that I showed you on the map there. And it runs down through here, this large paved area. One of the industries on that section is Southern California Edison, our local electrical company. And it looks from looking on Google Maps and stuff like that they actually build transformers and stuff like that in this area. And so that's sort of what I'm modeling here. It's actually a kind of large facility, has a few tracks in the real world. I managed to do a switchback here, which is exactly what happens in the real world. And then I actually had a little bit of an oil pump right over there, so I figured I'd do a little bit of industry within an industry, add a few more car spots here. Again, more operational opportunity to have some more fun running trains here instead of just using this as strictly a internal switchback for trains that come in here and offload their cars or pick up cars over on this end in Southern California, Edison. We've got another terrazzo and marble industry, and that's what it's called for now. That needs a sign right there. So they got like 3 car spots over there, and we head down into, I guess, one of my favorite little scenic spots here, and that's what I'm calling Huntington Beach on this end. So we've got a street over here and a couple crossings, got some billboards sort of giving you the flair of Huntington Beach. That saying right there, Jesus saves bro, is actually an actual saying that I saw when you get off one of the exits near Disneyland, actually, not Huntington Beach, but there's a sign. So you get off the exit and you have like graffiti here and there. Well, somebody put up a sign that says Jesus saves bro, and that's just kind of hit me as like the perfect flavor for South Orange County. Anyway, so we have another industry here, Jack Surfboards, otherwise known as Surfers Outlet. That is a real place there in Huntington Beach, and it used to be serviced, the building that it's in actually used to be serviced by rail with whatever was there, but currently isn't. But I kind of made it, again, going with my Southern California, Huntington Beach sort of feel. Jack Surfboards, they get all their surfboard material in and out over there. And we end up with Reliable Lumber down here, and that industry in the real world is the last industry on that line, and they get a lot of center beam cars and things like that. I think they have enough room in the real world for like maybe 7 or 8 cars or something like that. Obviously I don't have enough room here to do that, so we usually get 2 cars, maybe 3 cars a little bit. And again, with that whole sort of selective compression, you might say, wow, this is just a bunch of pavement and there's nothing really here. Well, the whole idea is that the industry, the majority of it is off the layout right here. We're only modeling a little tiny corner of the layout, which is sort of the back lot over here, where the offload some of the lumber, stack it up, things like that. They have a crossover over here that goes off into the rest of the industry that we don't model. So one of the things also when I built this was, you know, I've had a couple of different YouTube channels doing different things, different hobbies that I have. And so I built this layout kind of with the YouTube video making in mind. And so that's why a lot of things are very easy to access and easy to film down here. Stuff doesn't kind of get in the way because I can actually film my trains running through the layout here without having buildings in the way right here, that sort of thing. So that's one of the design considerations that I took when making the layout here. All right, so that's the end of the line, right? But like I said, this whole thing is a loop. And so we split off here. Remember, the Anaheim West Yard is actually a Y. So we technically can run straight down here and through a little or a little, you know, pass through right there and then back into the yard. So sometimes I like to come out here. I like to sit on the couch with my dog, Benjamin. We sit over there, we watch some videos, but I want to have a train running around just for the heck of it. So I can do that with that little pass through right there. It's basically one big loop, run train in the background and have a little bit of fun watching TV. So let's get to some of the other details here that I get asked. People ask, how wide is the actual layout here? So this is 2 foot across. Pretty much the entire thing is 2 feet from the aisle to the backdrop, right? Same thing over there, same thing over here, except you can see this little jink right here. I didn't actually have this little runaround down here. So I added that in, so this kind of pops out maybe another, whatever, 2 inches or so right there. But generally, 24 inches across the entire layout, a couple inches there, right, for facilitating that, that runaround. And let's see, one of the other things is how wide is your aisle right here? It's actually 4 feet. So plenty of room here to move around, not that I'm having other people over. But, you know, sometimes I like to have a chair. I bring my chair over here. I like to sit in the chair when I'm running and not doing videos because when I sit down in a chair, this is the view I get. It's pretty much eye level at the track, and it's it's kind of the most advantageous or prettiest, I guess, whatever you want to call it, height to work out of, right? The background. I get a lot of questions on the background. You can see the mountains right over here and the buildings and things like that. The mountains right here that you see all along the layout, that is a picture that I took from my backyard where I live in Southern California. I got a nice view out my backyard. And what I did was I kind of used some paint programs and you know, editing programs on my computer, blew it up, you know, kind of trimmed off some of the things that needed to be trimmed off and just printed it out on regular old printer paper, taped it together. You can see some of it's kind of coming apart right here. I got to do a little bit more touch-up work right there, but it's just regular paper taped on. And that gives me that nice little background looking mountain. Same thing for some of the scenes like this right here. I get that off Google Street View. So if you go to Google Street View to whatever location you're looking at, or modeling, I mean, you can just find spots where you can get a nice view, capture the screen, and do a little trimming here and there with a paint program, print it out, tape it together, and stick it into the background like that. So I still got to kind of do that, starting over here, over to this section right over here. The buildings, at least the flats that I have, like you see over here, this is one of the first ones I did, is again, same thing, just off of Google Street View. Find a spot where you can, you know, get a good screen capture, print it out, and tape it to maybe some hardboard. This one here is just on a piece, I'm not going to pull it out here, but piece of cardboard like that, and just prop it up. Some of the other ones I did, these are apartment buildings in the I think it's Huntington Beach, maybe around that location, maybe around Anaheim someplace. And printed them out and put them on some poster board kind of thing. Just glued them on there and stuck them around the layout. And they give you a nice little background right there. Let's see, what else do people ask me about? Some of the trees. Some of the trees here, these palm trees, you get them off Amazon. They're, you know, made in China. They cost a few bucks, you know, 10, 15 bucks, whatever, for like 20 of them. So just go to Amazon and take a look for HO scale palm trees, and you will come up with all of these different options for you to buy right there. So let's see, rolling stock. What do I got? So I try to have a good mix. Box cars, you know, lumber cars, gondolas over here for the junkyard, tank cars for the different locations, and yeah, a lot of good stuff like that over here on the layout. Try to keep a good mix of cars. And then let's go talk about the locomotives here. So I currently have 8 active locomotives. Let me see, 2 of them are scale trains. The rest are all Athearn Genesis. These are my scale trains right here, SD40T-2s. They're a little bit older for the layout here. They still got the red sills and stuff like that, but I bought those like way early, back before I even knew there was a difference between UP red sills and yellow sills. But you know, you finally get educated. And yeah, but I still run those as sort of the hauler that takes cars out of the yard over here and off the layout, which we'll talk about in a second here. Got a couple older, well, older as an era, but pretty brand new. Athearn Genesis again, GP7Us over here, Santa Fe. I know it's a UP line. What am I doing running Santa Fe? Because it's a model train set in a guy's garage, and I like those, so I'm running them, right? But I generally try to stay with, you know, correct locomotives for the era, you know, which is present day today, right? The newest one here is the Athearn Genesis GP7 -9 right here. So this is one that I'm using, little 6-axle. I'm using that as one of the haulers, and occasionally I take it out to do some switching. What the heck? Again, it's a model train set in a guy's garage. You know, I can do whatever the heck I want. Got our yard go over here. GP15, heavily graffitied, because if you look at videos online for the actual line or different, a couple of the other industrial leads in Southern California, locomotives get graffitied up, and you know, some people hate it, some people love it, whatever. I try to keep it looking somewhat realistic as to what's going on here. And then we've got our local here. This is GP15, or GP38 and GP40 consisted together. This is a train that does most of the work in the real world. The train that runs down through Santa Ana and also down into Huntington Beach. That's actually what they use. I think they use a they might use a GP60, but I've seen a GP38 and a GP60, you know, whatever. GP40 occasionally, but they usually use 2 4-axle units to do the loco switching. So those are the other 2 guys that I use. And then I did have one of the newer ones. This is GP38. It's a Southern Pacific. I patched it as the real one was patched. GP38 here. But that one's got a decoder problem, and so I'm going to eventually replace the Tsunami 2 decoder in that and get that running again. Maybe use that paired up with the GP15 over there to do the yard switching. And we got a couple other locomotives just on display right over here. This is from prior iterations of the layout, and just locomotives I had, you know, from doing model railroading through the years. So let's talk about staging a little bit. So like I said, trains have to come into the yard here at some point from somewhere, right? Even though it's just a loop.
So my staging is just a temporary track. Remember, this is a little cubby hole where we can run a loop. That's how they come into the yard over here. Or here's my continuous loop that runs into the layout, or into the, you know, into the side of the layout here, and then just keeps running around in a circle if I wanted to. I can either run them through the yard or through that main line right there. So off of the main line right here, it actually splits and goes into my staging, which looks like crap, and I gotta rework it and everything, but basically it's just some place that the train comes off of the layout. What I do is I run one of the haulers, like I said, usually the 6-axle, either the GP40T-2s or the -9. We'll pick up a train, and then it departs out, runs around the layout a couple of times, you know, however long it takes me to drink a cup of coffee, and then I'll run it up the main line over here and then out into staging. Park it over here and just take the cars off. What I've been doing is just sort of rotating the cars. You can see they're sort of stacked up all over the place over here. I know it's a little dark. I've got my lights shining over here to try to brighten it up a little bit. But what I do is I put the cars over here, take them off one of the tracks, and then pull the locomotive out a little bit, and then just figure out what the heck I want to switch. Bring some of the other cars back in here, and then that train runs back out around a few times, and then eventually ends up back in the yard. And I say that those cars are maybe coming from West Colton or something like that, which, don't fall, which I think in the real world, I think a lot of the time, that's what happens. I think the cars actually come from West Colton, like sort of the haulers, and then Los Nitos here is sort of just used as temporary staging, right? Which is kind of what I'm doing. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you guys are experts on this line, I try to look at most of the stuff online and try to figure out exactly what UP is doing and just kind of model it. But again, proto freelance, kind of, you know, this is my yard. Here's where I bring in the hauler, get the GP15 going, and classify, do all my fun classifying work over here in the yard before the local, either the Santa Fe here or the GP38, GP40 come grab their cars, which this is the next train that's going to be going out here. Not sure if I'll film it or just do it myself for fun. That's going to go out into the layout and do all the switching. So guys, I know this video is getting a little bit long, but I just want to welcome aboard everybody that has subscribed recently. Like I said, I try to do one of these sort of overview videos every couple of months because we get all the new subscribers and they always have the same questions. So hopefully this answers a lot of those questions that they had. I'm trying to think if anybody else had anything else. Not that I can think of. So I'm going to let you guys go. And if this is the first time you're seeing this, don't forget to check out some of the other videos there for all the operation videos and other layout updates that I do when I actually have something to update, when I get around to actually doing something on the layout. Otherwise, hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed and you just got this channel from YouTube recommendations, and hit the bell button to get notified when I do post videos. I try to do at least a couple videos a week, and hope you enjoy them. All right, guys, take care. Until next time, have a good weekend, and see you in the next video. Bye.